Thank you, and it's been great organizing this event with the CVA, and thank you, Cardano, for sponsoring our event. For the next 10 to 15 minutes or so, I will talk about MOBI current technology and future technology initiatives that we are calling the MOBI technology stack. We started working on the ecosystem for what we call the minimum viable community in early 2015. And 3 years later, in May 2018, we launched with 35 founding members. And now we have 100 and growing. We are working with our standards, our members to create standards and digital ways to identify all things mobility, including transactions. And MOBI itself is important to note that we are technology and ledger agnostic. Why are we creating standards? Well, before adoption of any revolutionary technology, industries need standards to give specs and to build the foundational infrastructure so that we can create products and services that can communicate and work together. Why is the MOBI community the right place to start and create these standards? Well, cumulatively, the community has upwards to 15% of global GDP. We have over 100 years of trusted partnerships with cities and government and consumers. And we have the ability to assign digital twins, the ability to install secure wallet at manufacturer, and the ability to build payment channels for the ecosystem. MOBI currently has 6 working groups. The first one had, of course, to be vehicle ID, and that one launched our first standard last year. The second vehicle ID working group just finished discussion this year, and now is drafting the second standard. So essentially, the first vehicle ID standard was for the birth of the vehicle, and now VID2 is writing a standard on what happened to the vehicle from birth to grave. And the usage-based insurance has drafted a standard, and now is being reviewed by the working group members. Electric vehicle grid integration, EVGI, we pushed out our standard last month, and now it's being reviewed by the community. Connected mobility data marketplace, we has concluded discussion, and now we're in the process of drafting the standard. And the 2 working groups that we launched this year, the first one was supply chain, is going through technical requirements definition, and the standard for that is from materials to parts and parts ID, and when we have that standard, it will be connected to our vehicle ID. And the last working group we launched so far is finance securitization and smart contract, and we are going through business requirement definition for that. Although we are a blockchain-based standard, producing blockchain-based standards for the ecosystem, we don't see ourselves as a blockchain organization. We see ourselves as a community project. Blockchain is not a standalone technology. The convergence of these technologies that you see on the screen here together with blockchain will give anything a secure identity, be intelligent, and securely interact and transact with each other. And these capabilities will define the future of mobility and how we consume mobility. We build an ecosystem for what we call the new economy of movement, which we believe to be a multi-trillion-dollar opportunity for connected mobility and infrastructure, exchanging data and payments seamlessly. No matter how good the standards are, at the end of the day, they are just pieces of paper with writing on them. They need to be adopted and implemented to create impactful outcomes for the ecosystem. And to do that, we have started 2 more initiatives. One is the Open Mobility Network, which is the OMN. And then the second one is Zootopia Application Marketplace Platform. This is a very simple architecture overview for the MTS. So the MOBI standards, the OMN, and Citopia are the three distinct layers of the full stack for the MTS. And here is a more detailed architecture for the MTS. On the left is MOBI working groups working to create standards. And the standards themselves will determine what kind of data and core services are available to the OMN. So what the OMN is essentially is a protocol agnostic business-to-business network that enables all the stakeholders participating to share, exchange, and monetize mobility and transit data. And these shared core services that we come up with for the OMN will allow all the applications sitting on top of it to be able to communicate and talk to each other. So instead of getting apples and oranges, we'll get apples and apples. And the Citopia Marketplace platform built on the top of the OMN, which is on the right side of your screen here, is built on blockchain to enable a very important feature, which is data privacy. Existing marketplaces out there, as mentioned by Dennis, is built on current technology with very similar business models to scrape and monetize data from their users. And MOBI has over 100 members and counting, and most of our members are competitors. Therefore, we need to provide a platform, Citopia platform, so that all the members can come and do business and retain their business models and the customers, and not worried about being poached. And to bridge the members to our MOBI, to the mobility consumers, we want the consumers to have just one app instead of downloading 100 apps from 100 members in our ecosystem to do business with us. So Citopia gives the consumer what they want and expect based on research, which is a seamless experience on one platform. In the blue boxes at the bottom of the screen right now are the different use cases that are being explored by each of the working group. And these use cases will produce standards that determine what data and core services are available in the open mobility network. Here is a full stack example for usage-based insurance. The MOBI UBI standard covers the major insurance use cases. And then from the standard, trusted and permission data, for example, such as identity or driving history, is available to the OMN participants. And then insurance carriers participating in the OMN, for example, the ones listed here on the left side of the screen, can use the data and core services available to them to offer usage-based products to consumers like Uber drivers, car rentals, and so on, through their own dApps. The platform itself has a similar look and feel to other map-centric apps out there, and cities and government can use this also to encourage green mobility and green behavior. For example, during traffic congestion, cities can offer incentives for the drivers to take a different route or not get into the car at all. Recently, the city of Los Angeles issued a study where around 70% of people in the cars during rush hours are actually not going to and from work. So if they can give them incentives not to get in the car at all, that would be a great of the traffic congestion. And then the city can also give other incentives like walking to your favorite restaurant for dinner instead of driving. And the incentives given by the city can be traded in for other services that's offered by the city. Citopia is a tokenized ecosystem, so where mobility asset owners, the ones at the bottom of the hourglass here, can be connected to the consumers at the top of the hourglass through a single payment platform. And at a high level, there are three components to this ecosystem as well. There is the marketplace, which offers data privacy. Therefore, competing mobility players can conjugate, and the user can come and consume mobility services without worrying about data being poached. And The second component is a utility stable token to facilitate transactions with low friction. And there is the community to create, adopt, and implement standards. We've been doing this for a while, and this year has been very encouraging to see governments around the world launching more and more blockchain and mobility initiatives. In the US, for the first time, the US Department of Transportation requested proposal for blockchain application and mobility. There were 122 proposals, and the award went to 4 universities with research labs. And all the light blue states that you see on the screen right now, those are part of a initiative called Road Usage Charge West, RUC West. And those states this summer received a first award by the US Department of Transportation to start doing experiment in blockchain application for road usage charge. And the EU Commission this summer asked MOBI, along with 2 other organizations, to present internally to them what do we all think the first use cases will be for what they call programmable money, machine-to-machine payments. And it was encouraging to see that the other 2 organizations, along with MOBI, all think that mobility will have the first use cases. And Ava will talk more about Asia, but Asia actually has a lot of initiatives coming up. For example, South Korea was the first country to announce that their highways will have blockchain power toll payments. And in May, South Korea also launched an initiative issuing blockchain driver license. And by August, 1 million of their citizens have opt-in for this driver license. And they are also working with Japan and New Zealand to pilot road usage charge. And Japan is looking into issuing digitized driver license. And it's also worth noting that in July, China issued a white paper, the government issued a white paper on smart city initiatives using blockchain. And one of the large components, of course, is mobility in smart city.